a pretty extraordinary day, and Congressman, thank you so much for your leadership. I just want to commend the school board, the superintendent, the union, the PTA, the entire Hillsborough community for just extraordinary leadership. And what the President and I are convinced is that we have to educate our way to a better economy. That what we're doing, quite frankly, around the country today isn't good enough for our children, isn't good enough for our country. In one generation, we've dropped from first in the world in college graduates to ninth. We have about a 25% dropout rate. That means about 1 million young people each year are leaving our schools for the streets. There are no good jobs out there for high school dropouts, none. In fact, students who drop out today are basically condemned to poverty and social failure. So we have to get better. We have to get better with a real sense of urgency. But what Hillsborough is demonstrating is we have to do it together. And when you have real collaboration, when you have real trust, there's a unique opportunity, a unique window of opportunity to take on the status quo and to do those difficult things that we know are right for children, right for adults, right for education, but unfortunately are far too often the exception rather than the norm. And so the collective leadership, the collective trust, and the willingness and the commitment to take education to an entirely different level here in Hillsborough is just absolutely remarkable. And I thank all of you for the example you're helping to set for the country. We've talked about an education quiet revolution. In about 6 months, you saw 36 states raise standards, college and career ready standards for every single child in their states, including Florida. 2 or 3 years ago, that was a third rail. Folks said that couldn't happen. Both heads of the major national unions, AFT and NEA, were on board. Business community was on board. Local philanthropic efforts, local business communities were pushing for this. You saw a massive amount of change in a short amount of time. And so as we try and take education to the next level, the question is, can we replicate, can we build upon these successful collaborations? And you're seeing a quiet revolution in many districts around the country. Here in Hillsborough, with a pretty radical contract passed a month ago, 96% of teachers voted for the contract. Staggering. In New Haven, very interesting, innovative contract. 95% of teachers voted for that. Pittsburgh, doing some interesting things. 68% of teachers voted for that. Philadelphia, 67%. There's a vote today in Baltimore. We'll see how that goes, but very, very interesting contract. Teachers are desperately asking for something better. I think all of us have to do a much better job of listening to them and responding to what they need to be successful. So what we hope to do to facilitate that is I'm going to ask to have a National Education Reform Conference on labor management and collaboration. And we want to host that in Washington. We want to do it early in the new year. We want to bring in Hillsborough and other districts like that to talk to potentially hundreds of other school districts around the country and figure out in a short amount of time, can we accelerate the rate of change and build these collaborative relationships, these collaborative partnerships, just as we've accelerated the rate of change on raising standards for the country. We have 36 states of a higher bar. We have 44 states working on better assessments. Why can't we have hundreds and hundreds of districts over the next couple months, over the next year, over the next 2 years, replicating the success of Hillsborough and some of these other innovative districts that are really at the cutting edge. So this is, I think, potentially a historic conference. We want to host it. We want to have partners come in from around the country, union leaders, management, superintendent, school board. You need all three players at the table together. And if we can bring in teams of folks from districts around the country to sort of hear what's possible and hear about this quiet revolution that's happening around the country, we can take these pockets of excellence and start to make that the norm. I'm so pleased to have phenomenal partners, courageous leaders who are helping to drive this effort at a national level. It's now my honor to introduce Randy Weingarten, the president of the AFT. Randy.